Dear writer, you need to quit. This is the show that helps you know what to quit, what to keep, and what to question. My name is Becca Syme, and I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach with thousands of hours of coaching 6 and 7 figure authors, mid-listers, major award winners, and new authors alike because everyone needs to quit something. Anyone can tell you what worked for them, and of course, they say it might not work for you, but they can't tell you why. Well, I can tell you why. Welcome to the QuitCast. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 36 of the QuitCast. My name is Becca, and I'm going to be your host today. And we are going to talk about, because it is the new year, we are going to talk about New Year's resolutions. And I've had a lot of people asking me what they should do for planning for the new year, for setting resolutions, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, it's already several days into the new year. And so some of us who have set New Year's resolutions are no longer keeping our resolutions, which is normal. I think the last statistics that I saw were the average was 14 days that people kept their New Year's resolutions. And I just want to take a second to question the premise of New Year's resolutions, partly because, of course, this is the time of year that I think we all look back and evaluate the last year and look forward to what is potentially coming, especially in our writing lives. I think there's this sense of like, what did I do in 2019 and what am I going to do in 2020? And there's a lot of setting of intentions and of hoping and planning and wishing and dreaming and probably evaluating and being frustrated as well, which of course, if you have watched this QuitCast for any length of time, you know that one of the things we talk about a lot is that frustration that we feel as writers when things don't go the way that we think they should go. And we talk a lot about resilience and essential pain around here because essential pain is that state of being when something happens and there is pain as a result of it, and the pain cannot not be felt. It is going to happen regardless. And the example that I use a lot is the elbow hitting the door. If your elbow hits the door, it has the reality of the doorknob has hit up against your expectation of the elbow, and the friction has caused pain. There's nothing you can do about it. And so that pain is essential to the situation. And the reason I think it's important to talk about essential pain in the new year, and I know that's going to feel a little depressing probably to some of us. Why do we have to talk about pain and resilience in January? It's because every time I do a class, every time I coach someone, my whole goal is to try to help to narrow the focus into something that will make a reasonable difference for us. Sometimes what we do is to shift expectations so that we don't want to change too many things in order to be able to get the actual change that will help us the most effectively executed. And the way I talk about this a lot is if you imagine that between you and the goal that you want to accomplish, there's 100 steps, and you have the energy, and we say energy pennies around here, right? You have the energy pennies, you have 100 pennies in your hand, and you can spend 1 penny per step. And so if you have 10 goals, then you can only get 10 steps in 10 directions. And you're never going to get to that goal that's 100 steps away. And instead, if you narrow your focus and you spend the 100 pennies going in one direction, then it's more likely that you're going to hit that goal because you're being more focused in what you're changing. And there are a lot of reasons for that. If you want to know more about that, take a look at the either Dear Writer, You're Doing It Wrong or Dear Writer, You Need to Quit. Those 2 books that are behind me. Both of those, I talk about this concept of why it is that we shouldn't change all the things. And this is why I want to heartily QTP the idea of New Year's resolutions, both in our writer's life and just in our regular life. First of all, because the reality of the 100 pennies, I can only go 100 steps. And if I go 100 steps in one direction, I'm likely to reach the goal in 100 steps. That is an essential pain of life. Whether I like it or not, the doorknob of the fact that I have limited energy resources is a reality. It exists. That doorknob exists. And my elbow can go swinging all at once around wherever. But if I'm going to hit If I'm going to swing my elbow in this direction and I'm going to hit that doorknob, there's nothing I can do about it. It is there. It's a fixed property. We can increase our energy, and there's a lot of studies that have been done on things like willpower recently that have underlined this, that we only have a finite amount of certain resources, I guess, in our life. And willpower is one of them, obviously. Energy is one of them. One of the reasons that I suggest personally to narrow your focus in your New Year's resolutions or just in the things that we're going to change as we leave a Write Better Faster class, for instance, is because I want you to actually succeed, not just to feel really great for about 14 days and then not be able to assimilate the change any longer than that. I want us to be looking out 6 months and 12 months and be able to assimilate that change in the long term. But what happens when we try to change too many things, when we make the New Year's resolutions to lose weight, to go back and exercise, to be better, be more present with our family, to write more words, to do all of these things at the same time, we're effectively spending 10 pennies in 10 directions instead of 100 pennies in one direction. And so, what I want us to think about this year as we go forward into 2020 is to look back 10 years and see what has not changed in those 10 years. What are the most ingrained habits that I have for right now? Are there things that I absolutely know that no matter how much I want to change them, I am not going to change them? For some of us, that might be writing super fast. For some of us, it might be plotting. For some of us, it might be exercising or trying to do some kind of fad diet. For a lot of us, there's something that we need to just let go for the time being and allow ourselves to be where we are and not expect change so that we can change something else that's more important. For a lot of people that I've been coaching over the last couple of years, and especially in the last 2 months, health is an area where they have decided they need to make some major changes. And that to me is an important distinction to make. Needing to make major changes because there's something pressing on you, or because, like, for instance, with health, a lot of this is it contributes to our burnout. If we're eating food that doesn't replenish our bodies, if we're not drinking enough water, if we're not taking care of the instrument that we're playing in, then that can lead to long-term ramifications in other areas, right? And we're not sleeping as well, we don't have as much energy, we're not able to concentrate, those kinds of things. But a lot of people are choosing health this year. And so my encouragement is change as little as humanly possible and change it very ardently. So, for instance, let's say that you are super excited about this is going to be your year to work out, and currently you work out 0 times per week, and all you do is sit around all day long. What's going to take a ton of pennies from you is a larger amount of change. So, if you try to go to the gym 5 days a week, that is a major change to the inertia of your system, and that is much harder to keep up in the long term because eventually your life system is going to push back on you. And you need to be able to have as little amount of change as possible. This is why things like a lot of people are into the one big thing or the atomic habits or something like that, both of which I think have their place and are awesome, like conceptually awesome. But to me, it's even the why behind why this is important is even smaller than that. It's because you're not going to be able to long term assimilate something that goes so largely against your system unless there is a giant reason. So, for instance, I have some clients who have major, major health issues that are requiring them to make a complete 180 in the way that they deal with both their health and fitness. And it's really because they have had either a diagnosis of some kind, or because they've had undealt with health issues for a long time that they have not been able to assimilate long term change in. And so, my encouragement is if you have a necessary change, like there's a diagnosis that's requiring you to do this, or some kind of an injury that's requiring you to do this. This happened to me when I had my major surgery. Like, it was necessary for me to change the way that I lived and ate and took care of my health. And so that was a big change in my life. But It was an outside force requiring me to change. And when you don't have that, it can be harder to maintain super, super big changes. And so, this is what I want us to think about in 2020 if we are among the people who are not in the field of there's an outside source pushing on my change. What I want us to do is to change as little as possible. So if it's a health thing and all you're going to do is just make sure that you drink water consistently every single morning for 30 days without stopping, and you don't take a cheat day, you don't take a day off, you don't pause, period. Every single day you drink the water and you focus all of your intention on making sure that you do that. And then if you do other things, great, because we talk about this in Bright Better Faster. There are some keystone habits. Exercising right away in the morning is one of them. And again, it does not have to be huge cardio exercise or huge weightlifting where you have to go to the gym. It can be very small. It can be doing yoga in your bedroom. It can be walking around the block. It can be a very small change. Don't think about it as I need to adopt a new system. Think about what is going to help me to cue myself into having a healthier day. Because these keystone habits, this is what happened with me when I started doing yoga in the mornings. It was the 10 minutes at the beginning of the day that made me think differently about the rest of the day, because I made myself get up and I made myself put on the workout clothes and do the stretches. And for 10 minutes every day, that's what I was doing. And then I eventually added drinking water every morning. And this kind of very small change, the longer you can push yourself where that's your one focus thing that you're going to do. And it may feel like you need to change all the things. And I'm telling you that anxiety, that needs to count as an essential pain. And we need to deconstruct that. This is what we've always done. And it makes us feel so much better because we're affirming the pattern that's telling us that what we've always done is change a lot of things. Our brain does not know logically that what that's gotten us every year is nothing changes. Our brain doesn't know that. All it knows is that we're used to feeling this anxiety about changing everything. And when we adopt 45 new systems, then it feels better. But our brain, that's the subconscious part of your brain. It's not logical. It doesn't actually know that that way is the way to failure, to long-term failure. So the key for me is change small things and put all of your energy behind changing those things. Maybe all you're going to do is wake up in the morning and open your manuscript. Maybe that's the only change you're going to make in 2020. That could be a keystone habit for you. I'm just going to say a lot of people who decide to do that end up having a totally different day because that was the first thing they did. Exercising first thing in the morning, drinking water first thing in the morning, all of these things can be keystone habits for you. Not reaching for your phone first thing, like pick one of those four things and just try only doing that. Don't make any big grand sweeping changes. Don't buy a gym membership. That's not going to motivate you if it's never motivated you before. There is something though that will, and the way that you feel successful when you have consecutively done something that you feel like you have control over and it's helping your health or it's helping your productivity or it's helping your wellness, those kinds of successes, the more they build on each other, will eventually yield results. And that's what I want us to focus on this year. Small changes, narrowed, focused changes. Don't change all the things. Don't plan all the things. Don't try to do all the things. Like, really, we just need to relieve some pressure from ourselves to do and be everything. And we need to narrow our focus. And so that's where I'm going to stop today. I could talk about this a lot. And of course, we're starting Right Better Faster right now, tomorrow, in fact. And that's one of the things we talk the most about in that class is about why it's so important to narrow the focus and to not change too much and to accept and understand as much as we're capable of so that everything doesn't push against us. Because again, the data is on our side in the sense of People who do assimilate long-term adult behavioral change are the ones who do so either because there's an external force that's pushing on them, or they have made enough room in the current system that the system itself isn't going to derail and push back and go back to the status quo, because that's what the system wants to do. Anytime you are trying to change something, you need to understand that the system that's in motion is trying to get back to the status quo. That is literally what systems do. If you want systemic change, you either have to make the change small enough that the system won't notice and then allow it to be that keystone place that will filter through the entire system, or you have to blow up the system. And that can be really dangerous when we're talking about our life systems, because those are the kinds of things where when something outside enacts on you, you don't have any choice in that. This is a total change to your system. But those are pretty much the two options. And so in terms of individual health, productivity, or business related choices, I am a huge fan of very narrowed focus and very accomplishable long-term tasks where you focus all of your energy on doing that. If you were just gonna drink water in the morning and then all you thought about at night was, "Okay, in the morning, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go drink my 2.5 glasses of water, and then at noon, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this at dinner, and then I'm gonna do this again right before bed," and all you did was think about that that was what you are planning, and there were no other changes. Everything else could be exactly the way that it's always been. And then you give yourself the time to assimilate that long term. And people who tell you that habit change takes 21 days or 30 days, no, that's only in a vacuum, right? It can take hundreds of days to change habits. It can take hundreds of days to assimilate habits. So you need to give yourself as long as possible to do the things that really, really matter. And so this is what I'm hoping we'll do today. Take some stock. What is the most important thing that you could do? Not what are the three most important or two most important things. What is the one most important thing that if you could just get that right every single day, that you could make an impact on your health, it or your productivity or your writing? And that's all I want us to think about today. Okay, I really have to stop now. Okay, so this week we are going to be instituting, and it's our second week of the Dear Becca newsletter. If you have not yet signed up for that, what we're doing is you can submit live coaching questions, and I'm going to let people submit the questions, and then I usually ask for clarification and we communicate back and forth a little bit. And then I put all of that into the newsletter and we do a live coaching. So we did one on whether or not you're really in burnout or if it's major depression. And we're going to do a few more topics in the next coming weeks, which are coaching questions that you have submitted. The link to submit is going to be in the show notes. And then additionally, the link to the newsletter is going to be in the show notes, and the newsletter is free. And you can sign up for that at any time. And otherwise, Dear Writer, You're Doing It Wrong has now officially released. And so please go and pick that up if you are interested. Otherwise, we're going to continue on next week with the QuitCast, and we're going to see some Strengths for Writers videos coming back. And I'm super excited about 2020. Remember, don't change all the things. We'll be okay. No more resolutions, QTP. And I will see you guys next week on the QuitCast. Bye.